Good morning or good afternoon, everyone. My name is Martin Lefrancq. I work as a smart mobility coordinator at Brussels Mobility. Brussels Mobility is the public transport authority for the Brussels capital region. First of all, I would like to thank ICLEI Korea and the EU-Korea Climate Action for giving me and giving us this opportunity to present to you our Good Move Sustainable Urban Mobility Plan, as well as different projects that are currently carried on. Good Move, what is it? It's basically the path towards sustainable and innovative mobility solutions in the Brussels capital region. And I never ever miss a chance to promote Good Move. It's one of our pride for the moment at Brussels Mobility. But now even more than ever, because we recently were the winner of the SUMP award awarded by the European Commission. So this gives us even more confidence and strength to carry on and go full steam ahead in the policies that are presented in this plan. And one of its biggest strengths for Good Move is that it has been co-constructed and consulted with many stakeholders here in Brussels, either from the public sector, of course, but in the private sector as well as civic associations. So a lot of people agreed upon what inside Good Move. So it gives us really a good chance and opportunity to use this same tool for all these stakeholders in terms of mobility in the Brussels capital region. And what is Good Move? First of all, it's a city vision. During these co-building sessions with private, public and civic associations, we defined what was the city that we wanted to see by 2030 here in Brussels. And basically, the main words that came out of these discussions is a green city, a social, pleasant, healthy, effective, safe and efficient city. These were the terms that were used. This was the vision that people wanted to see for the city of Brussels. And then we also defined a mobility vision. In a nutshell, the mobility vision is to manage the global demand for trips, to reduce the usage of privately owned car, to strengthen the mobility service solution and mobility as a service, to create structured and efficient transport and transit networks. An important focus has been highlighted on urban logistics as well, as it takes more and more presence in the traffic and mobility in Brussels. Mobility vision is also to manage the parking policies in line with the mobility vision, not give too much importance to parking. And one of the main goals is to create these districts, small districts. And in these districts, the goal is to reduce the traffic stress. There are a few examples. Here is a picture of a recent refurbished street in ICLEI, the community of ICLEI. But this is what we want to see. People should be able to access locally, of course, their houses, but we don't want to have too much traffic inside these districts. So an amount of these districts has been defined in Good Move. We have about 50 of these. And this is a comparison between the no move scenario that we've called and the Good Move scenario. Good Move is again this vision that we have for 2030 in Brussels. And no move is basically what's happening right now, or what has been happening in the past few years. Is that everyone used every mode of transportation in every street of the city. And now we want to have a structured way of this traffic. And have the inner part of these districts more dedicated to local traffic, active mobility flow, and leave the car traffic on the main axis of the city and on the ring road, the outside ring road. And for this purpose, we have defined 5 intertwined efficient networks for active mobility, walking and cycling, for public transport, for car traffic, as well as for heavy load logistic transport. And for each of these networks, we have defined 3 levels of comfort, basically. The plus level, the comfort level, and the district level. And the mobility vision in a nutshell is basically to reduce the mode share of privately owned car trips by a quarter, from 33% of what of the mode share today. By 2030, it should be 24%. And compensating this with collective and shared trips, of course, public transport or shared mobility, but individual active and micro-mobility trips as well. And Good Move is more than just a vision. It's important to have a vision, but it's also 50 tangible concrete actions that we have separated in 6 focuses that hinge around 3 most important leverage, which is territory, behavior, and governance. Those 6 focuses are good neighborhood, good network, good service, good choice, good partner, and good knowledge. Each of these focuses has a set of different actions that are basically planned for the next years at Brussels Mobility. But of course, these actions necessitate co-working and collaboration of different organizations here in Brussels, either public or private. As this is highlighted in the good partner focus, of course. And just to give you an example of what these actions are, let me talk about a few of the actions that I'm following here as a smart mobility coordinator. I focus specifically on mobility as a service and shared mobility policies. So one of the main actions is supporting the development of mobility as a service, and I'll go further into details a little bit later in this presentation. It is important to set up information points and integrated service hubs as well. We want to develop even more services with respect to bicycle and micro-mobility solutions. We strongly believe in these solutions as an opportunity to take over a few of the trips that are made by individual cars. We want to have a service approach to parking. Parking is a service, of course. And reinforce shared mobility services. For the moment, these shared mobility services are very present in Brussels, but still remain kind of a niche product. And we want to increase the market to create basically a win-win-win solution, basically for mobility solution providers on the one side from the private sector, the public authority on the second side, and third, hopefully, create interesting services for citizens of Brussels. Everything is, of course, available online if you want to look further into Good Move. Soon there will be an English version of an executive summary available online. For the moment, just in French and Dutch. Hopefully, you can try to find some more information, interesting details about the Good Move plan online. But now, let me try to go a little bit deeper in a project that we are currently carrying out, which is called Developing Innovative Mobility Solutions in the Brussels Capital Region. It is a project that is financed by the European Commission and the DG Reform in a program that is called Structural Reform Support Program. And we applied to this last year, strongly believing that creating a regulatory framework for mobility as a service and shared mobility at the regional and local level was really something that needed some expertise and counsel from other partners. And so we have applied, and we started this partnership last July with the International Transport Forum, which is part of the OECD. We have started in July for a duration of 1 year, and the idea is to consult with every stakeholders of the mass landscape or shared mobility landscape to create a framework that is really appropriate for the development of innovative mobility solutions. Create a framework that encourages these kind of solutions. And here, let me take an extract of the presentation made by Philippe Christ, who is advisor innovation at Foresight at the International Transport Forum. And he used this presentation for the Mass in Brussels webinar that took place last month in October to create interest and to promote the project among stakeholders. So basically, this is the usual traditional landscape of mobility in Brussels. We have regular trucks and vans going around the city to deliver packages. We, of course, have the good old walking solution. We have quite a strong base of public transport, the car traffic, of course, and bicycle traffic, which is increasing quite dramatically since the past few months. But in the past few years, a set of new solutions and future solutions that could actually arrive, of course, have changed dramatically this landscape. We have many present shared micromobility solutions in Brussels: scooter share, bike share, car share, ride sourcing and ride hailing, on-demand public transport, and in the future, probably delivery bots and delivery drones. Not too many, hopefully. So this creates a layer, a new layer, an interface between us as an authority and these services, these new services. A digital interface, which implies some automation and artificial intelligence. These are things that we're not used to manage here at Brussels Mobility, but these are things that we have to prepare in the future to be able to manage. But one thing that is important, and I think it's really close to what we have in mind for Good Move, the real goal is quality of life. The real center of what we are doing is people. People living in Brussels, people visiting Brussels, people working in Brussels. And all this technology should not make us forget that. This is what's at stake. This is the center of attention. So the people of Brussels are basically you and me, or not you actually for the moment, because I believe in Korea, but anybody living in Brussels or working in Brussels. And there's so many choices in terms of transport, and it's confusing. So, of course, the goal is to create one interface to make it easier for people to access all these solutions and to let them be aware of these solutions, because most of them are not very well known. A mass platform is something that should be able to get access to this vehicle, to pay for this vehicle, to have services and call centers to ask a few questions, to have equity of accessibility, to be able to calculate some route and itineraries. This is what mass mobility as a service is. And of course, there are different mass solutions already existing in Brussels, but they are not comprehensive in terms of the offer of mobility. So there are possibilities to download a few applications for one or few of these mobility solutions, but we want to make it easier. We want to be an enabler for a more comprehensive solutions, and solutions that are actually really interesting and attractive for the customers and the citizens. Eventually, the project, the partnership with the International Transport Forum, will be supporting the development of mobility as a service, or MaaS, for the Brussels capital region. Specifically, it will assist Brussels Mobility in establishing an efficient and resilient regulatory framework for MaaS. This is the end goal. And the approach that we're going to do, we're going to have, is to define an appropriate governance to guide technology deployment in support of people. This is the layers of importance. Technology should not be leading the policy. It's the interest of people and citizens of Brussels that actually is at the center of our concerns. And eventually the project will deliver a set of policy recommendations on regulation frameworks and data governance for MaaS. Indeed, the data governance is really something that is important and is very sensitive for the moment. There are a lot of questions raised whether operators should share data, what kind of data they should share, how we as an authority should treat it and protect it from other stakeholders. And this is something that we're going to define together with the other stakeholders in the Brussels Capital Region. And ITF, International Transport Forum, will help us lead the way and have this kind of neutral position in this debate. So I think we're going to have very, very interesting results. I'm very excited to be part of this project, as I think I'm going to learn a lot of things on how to define the most balanced system for everybody to have an interest in the development of mobility as a service. I think the issue of trust is one of the most important issues in this project, and we are going to define a framework that creates the most trust between the stakeholders. The project will review international experiences with developing mobility as a service frameworks, and we're going to review lessons from regulation of other domains of transport and services in general, and approaches in other cities. So we're going to do a benchmarking, basically. We are going to prepare a readiness assessment of the state of the Brussels Capital Region for implementing mobility as a service. This readiness assessment is currently carried out by ITF. We're going to review case studies of data governance framework and develop guidance for their development. So this is what we were talking right before, and this balance that should be needed for every stakeholders implied in this mobility as a service landscape. And eventually, at last, consult stakeholders via meetings and a review workshop with public transport authorities and operators, mass platform operators and shared mobility operators. So they are going to help us conduct these meetings and these workshops with all concerned stakeholders here in Brussels and Belgium. So this was the presentation and the parenthesis about our project with the International Transport Forum. But our public transport operator, which is called the STIB MIVB here in Brussels, is already getting their hands dirty in terms of mobility as a service. They are currently conducting a mass mobility as a service pilot project with about 2,000 users here in Brussels. The project is called Move Brussels. It started in September. It was delayed quite a few months due to, of course, the current pandemic that we're suffering all around the world, all around the globe. But it started in September with about 2,000 users. And this allows us, specifically the public transport operator, but the public transport authority as well, because we watching the development of the project quite closely. But this helps us better understand what actually a mass product is in terms of technology, in terms of knowledge and human resource that is required to develop and follow closely such a project. It will allow us to better understand what's at stake for the scalability of such a project. Starting with 2,000 people is already a good start, but the intention is to have many, many more users. So we have to better understand how it works and what it requires to develop such a tool. So we are we are very, very hopeful in what we are going to learn for this project and actually better understand what the impact of a mobility as a service solution to the end user actually is and how it can change their mobility habits, hopefully in the good way, towards sustainable mobility solutions. I could talk to you about many, many more projects and policies that is currently happening in Brussels. I could talk to you about the impact of the COVID-19 pandemic and the temporary bicycle and pedestrian infrastructures that has dramatically increased a share of active mobility. Basically, from 2019 to 2020, in September, we have an increase of 100% for cycling specifically, thanks, among other things, to these temporary infrastructures. We are also conducting a very interesting micro-mobility data collection platform, which helps us learn a lot of things about who is actually using these kind of services, and how we can use this data to better design our policies and our infrastructures in the future. We have also a smart move project, which is being discussed in the press quite heavily because it's a topic that is quite sensitive, called the Urban Toll project, which could be combined with mobility as a service, a very, very effective and powerful tool for the completion of our good move goals and policies. I could talk to you about Münstrom, which is a multimodal flows data collection that's about to start with very fascinating perspective in the future, etc., etc. But this is just to give you a slight view of what we're doing at Brussels Mobility. I would like to thank you all for your attention, and please don't hesitate to contact me if you are interested in these projects and if you have questions. I can give you all the details that you need. Thank you very much, and hopefully see you soon. Bye-bye.